In a world of shadows, we seek the light. Stories untold, voices that ignite. With hearts wide open, we tread the line for those we love. Their stories intertwine. Save a life, hold on tight. Through the darkness, we will fight. In memories, they shine so bright. For the long.
Hey, what's going on, Paula?
Hey there, how are you?
I am doing a-okay. Same old stuff. You know, first and foremost, I love you, you and Phil. I know this was a tough week, and I just want to let you know that every day of the week I was thinking of you and your family, and just want to say that I'm here. If you ever need me, you know that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I know that we took a little bit of a hiatus. I think sometimes you need that, right? Just because there's just so much coming at us every single day, as we know. But as always, we appreciate everyone who comes on, listens, follows us. We've had some amazing guests. We are waiting for one to come on today. I'm hoping that I sent him the information. But again, it's about the awareness, right? It's about getting the messaging out, the prevention, the education part of this. And you started this, and I say it all the time. I've said it to the guests. You did this because you wanted to, you didn't have to. And for that, we appreciate it, because I think that the messaging needs to be where people understand that they know what's going on in the crisis that's happening.
Exactly. The I just I think that this is so important that we do this, because, as you know, when you have conversations just with certain people, they're so unaware of what's going on,
Right.
and it takes things like this to do. I was It takes grassroots information, grassroots people to get to the grassroots people, because sometimes being in certain capitals of the state, the city, I mean, the state, the country, they're just kind of on their soapbox telling their story and hoping that someone sees it. At least being grassroots and what do you say? Feet to the ground. I forget what you say. That's a saying, and it's so important, because just in my little circle, home, work, and that's just a small amount of people,
Right.
and they're saying, "Oh, I was unaware of it," So,
Right. I can tell you that it's something where, because we're all seeing the numbers, right? And we all are understanding that the CDC, many of the health departments across the United States are saying that the numbers are coming down. And I think we have to be very cautious of that wording, because are the numbers coming down in some instance? Yes, absolutely, because Narcan is working and
hmm
people are more vigilant, and they understand the crisis that's happening, and they understand that fentanyl is in everything. So when they are somewhere, then they know that it's something where people are aware, right? So it's kind of like, and I always use this messaging. I always say, you know, when people say to me, well, why carry Narcan? Well, why have a fire extinguisher in a building? Why have an AED in a building? It's the same concept. It's there when you need it.
exactly, exactly. Um, I'm trying to put us on Streamyard. I think it's very important that we do that, and so I'm just trying to get the live feed here. Um, I'm doing something wrong here. Uh,
And I think that one of the things too, Charlie, is that people, I mean, we just saw last year there was a bust in Maine, right? And it was a pretty big bust that occurred. Everybody saw it all over the news, and it was of marijuana that
mm,
had been tainted. Um, and for whatever reason, now we just had another bust that just happened the other day, and it was pesticides. So, and again in Maine. So, at what point are people going to understand that as easy as they are doing this, it's something where people need to continue to be vigilant, right? You cannot go and get your marijuana from any place but a dispensary. You know,
exactly.
you just can't. And again, with a pill, you have to make sure it's prescribed to you, whether it's, from a pharmacy, CVS, wherever the case being, because it's still happening. I mean, we've seen it every day now, which is, I'm so appreciative that we finally are starting to see it more and more around the busts that are happening around fentanyl. And, we also have a lot of action around it, a lot of political action, which is kind of good too. I appreciate that because as parents, this is something that we've been asking for. And again, this is not a Democrat or Republican issue. This is a United States bipartisan issue. So the fact that the mainstream media is finally starting to put it out more, it's an awareness that needs to continue to happen.
Yeah, more and more it's in the news, and like you said, and uh, when we first started it, we wasn't hearing Jack. Excuse my pun, Jack McGee. How you doing? Good evening. But we wasn't hearing too much, and everyone was kind
Right,
of shying away from it, as you know, as you try to meet and greet and speak with people and get it well known and heard throughout the whole state, throughout the whole city, and sometimes at that time it was on deaf ears, in
right,
my opinion.
right,
That's my opinion solely, but it was. Um,
right. And I think that one of the things too that people need to understand is that, again, with the awareness comes the understanding that just because the numbers are coming down does not mean that we are out of the woods and that we're safe and that we don't have to be vigilant. We can't think that way. We have to continue being on guard. We have to continue paying attention. We have to continue understanding that the threat is still out there. I mean, if people think that just because some of the cartel members were just arrested last week, that they're going to stop, they're not. They're not.
no,
They're ramping up even more.
yeah, there's so many. It's like anything else. Oh,
Yeah.
trying to put up a video. The It's like anything else, as people go, they're easily replaced. You're just a number, and they'll find more than enough people to fill in a spot where someone has left off or failed, their organization. So
Right. Exactly. And that's the biggest thing too. And I think that one of the things that people need to also understand is that it's working together, right? And people have heard me talk about this all the time, being in silos. I continue to see it. I continue to see the silos. And if we can't come and work together for the greater good of all, then what are we truly doing? And I think that's one of the biggest messaging that has to be out there is that when you're talking about awareness, you're talking about prevention, you're talking about education and advocacy. It's understanding that this is something that's going to take everyone. It's all hands on deck. It's an all hands on deck approach.
yeah, we it's very, very important because eventually it strikes home, and if you're not careful, I mean, you should be careful so it doesn't strike home. I mean, you always say it. I'm doing this so you don't have to go through what I'm going through. That's what you say,
Right.
and it's so so important. Um, and I don't know. I can't put your week into words. I can't put your life now into words. So I'm not gonna say anything, but I'm proud that you are moving every step of the way to make sure that other people are safe.
Well, I do it because I have a lot of wonderful, parents who have been doing this much longer than we have. Unfortunately, they have been on this path, and they, put the footprints. They created the stepping stone, and it's not something that you ever want to do. But when it does happen, as it did with us, we have people that we can reach out to and say, "Hey, how do you start this? How do I do this? How does this happen?" And that's one of the biggest things again with advocacy is we have that connection there of a group of really amazing folks that we can reach out to with anything that we need, any type of question, because this isn't easy and it's very translucent and it's changing every day. I mean, right now in the Senate, there's the Halt Fentanyl Act,
Yep.
and that's something that has been going back and forth because what it's going to do is it's going to hold people accountable criminally if they sell something to someone, give something to someone, and the person unfortunately passes away from fentanyl poisoning. That person's going to do jail time. And, and there's been a lot of bipartisan support, which we are appreciative of, but there's been also a lot of things of how government works of you bring a bill forth and now someone's saying, okay, well, you want to put that bill there, but now I want to add that you have to change the sky green on this day. And that's where you're really starting to see how government works when you want something to happen, and there's just so many other moving pieces at all times.
Exactly. The Paul, I also want to pass um on the bottom line. It says a Really Charlie podcast on Spotify, Facebook, YouTube, and then it adds, "Do you have a fentanyl story? Call this number." Well, that's a live number, so that number could be used during our shows. So as you and I are interacting with different people, they can just call that number and speak to us right now. Like, they may have a bad hair day, and they just don't want to get on screen, so they can call that number, and it goes right here by my side, and I just kind of put it on speaker. The microphone picks up that voice, and then we can talk to people live. And no matter what they want, they may want to just you know give us some praise, give us some compliments, and about what's going on and how they tune into us. So and so I get your message. So go ahead, do what you have to.
Oh no, I
Um,
did. And then I think that one of the biggest things also is I think what people need to understand is as we continue to have some wonderful guests on, the guests that we're bringing on are subject matter experts. These people are folks that, we've had some amazing guests so far. Last year, we had a plethora of wonderful guests that we were able to bring from federal agents in different departments to people who were in recovery and telling us their story. And this is something that I think we definitely want to continue. But at the same time, I think we also need to, we need to listen to our audience, right? And our audience is telling us how can we make sure that we bring the best absolutely information to the table, and we make sure that people are hearing the message correctly, because we always want to make sure that we give factual information. So anything we do, we will make sure that that happens.
um, see this message for you.
Oh, he's doing good, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
The uh some of our friends down the street or down the road just went through some chaos at the BBA in Dartmouth, where people are trying to do some good things and they're vandalizing the courts in Dartmouth. So I hope that the local police department end up working on it real diligently and as they always do and catch the culprits that were trying to destroy what the Burgo Association has done over the last few decades. So just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, I did see that. And I think that, one of the biggest things is you see that so much, right? You see a community member who is doing good for the community and within the community. And then you have some young people who just think that it's okay and it's funny to go and vandalize people's property. And I think we talked about this a couple of times, Charlie, on our podcast, where, and we've talked about it in a different scenario, but accountability, right?
Mm,
If they don't have accountability for their actions, or someone needs to be used as an example, things like that are going to continue to happen. And it's sad because it shouldn't. Again, we're talking about someone who is a community member who's done a lot of good things in the community and for the kids. And to have people just think that it's okay to just go on and do what they did, that's not okay.
exactly. And through from what I've seen going on there, it's definitely something that the community can solve.
Right.
Um, those cars are very distinctive and maybe someone will recognize what's going on.
Yeah. And I think that one of the thing also is, and let's take it back to what we've talked about before when we had Marvin on, mental health, right?
Yeah,
And what is going on in their world that they feel that this is okay to do, and what is going on that, again, they feel that doing something like that and spending the time that they spent there with no one around to even see or supposedly hear anything. And I think that's one of the biggest things too, is that people question is that was in broad daylight.
yeah,
So I mean, look, you're the retired police officer. Maybe you can let us know, because again, I think with what we all saw with some of the noise that they were making, you would think that someone would have heard and called the police.
exactly. Um, some people like they refuse to get involved, and it's too bad because eventually, when you need people to get involved, and it could be for their own well-being. They collapse and fall in their yard and they're laid out. Do you want someone to call 911 to see that you're okay, and or do you want someone to just walk in their house and just pay you no mind? And someone can die within 4 minutes.
Right.
So any kind of delay whatsoever could be life or death. And I just I just think that for in most cases he has good neighbors over there, and I would just want to say that perhaps they wasn't home, and but I heard from his own mouth that he does have some good neighbors. So uh, hopefully, there's some other surveillance other than what we've seen
Right.
that can capture some of these things that are going on. But this day and age, even when I was on the street, people are just reluctant to come forward, and I think it's still like that, maybe even worse. So um, that's a sad thing.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that one of the biggest things also is the fact that, again, going back to what we do every week with what we're bringing to the audience, is the awareness of what's happening, and being and paying attention to your surroundings. I mean, how many times do we hear that? Because there is so much going on. And I think that also just making sure that, taking care of your neighbor, be a good person. I mean, it doesn't cost anything to be kind. It's free. It's kind of like what I tell people when they ask me certain questions, and I just say, hey, Google is free. Well,
Hmm.
being kind is free also.
Sure is. It sure is. And just a few moments ago, you mentioned Marvin. He did reach out and said that he wants to do another podcast. So it probably couldn't be this week, but next week, next Wednesday, if you're available.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and if you think of anyone else, we can add them to the to the podcast also, because right now we can go up to 10 people, and have 10 people on the podcast. So I'm hoping that that would be real nice to have people speaking out on love and grief, and like mental health is very key. Um,
Well, we
the
were we were supposed to have a guest on today, just to let everybody know, Jim Rawl from Families Against Fentanyl, but unfortunately, his flight got delayed, so he just texted me that he is still on the plane and it's going to be landing soon. So he apologizes, but we can definitely have him on for next Monday. But hey, those are the things that are happening in the airline industry today, right? And then we don't know if there's a storm going on or if the plane needed maintenance. So we get it, we understand.
yeah,
But he definitely will be on next week. He apologizes profusely, and we get it, But I think that this roundup of folks, guests that we're going to have for 2025 is going to be, we're going to be having a lot more different people coming on who's going to bring different perspectives. I'm also looking to bring in a toxicologist,
mm,
someone who, is a coroner, because I think that needs to happen.
yeah. Um, the any guest. I mean, I was trying to get 3 or 4 people on the other podcast that I was working on, and it's only the beginning of the year, and people are already kind of penciled in for things, months ahead, and so it's already picking up, and the weather is getting warmer, so I think people are going to be more active. There was a demonstration downtown that I missed, over the Medicaid, um, cuts and all the
Oh,
disappointment, and they were meeting at the federal building downtown New Bedford, and I didn't make it. I didn't have enough time, and I know that's the problem with me, is I don't have enough time to get to all these things sometimes, um, and to be home at a proper time, especially in the beginning of the week. Monday and Tuesday are very busy for me because of the podcast, and so I and Sunday night. So um, but yeah, I'm glad there's still some fight in Americans. You see a lot of fight all over the world, and I'm just glad that you know Americans are starting to stand up and fight. Um, um,
well, I think it's a generational thing, right? Because if we look at history, and please correct me, but when things were not going, or they were going array in the country, we had people like, Dr. King, who held many marches,
yes,
and so many others with him. And I think that, your voice is powerful, and your voice matters. And sometimes with so much going on every day, but you also want to make sure that you have a voice that's going to matter for the right platform, right?
Hmm.
Because we're seeing the opposite of that. We're seeing it every day. And I think there's so much division right now. And we never talk about politics, Charlie, you know that. But
Yeah.
there's so much division. And even with what we're doing with bringing forth awareness. I mean, I can tell you that a lot of the parents that I talk to across the country are having a hard time, having events and doing forums because of the fact of everything that's happening across the country. There is parents who had planned to do things with federal agencies, whether it was, FBI, DEA, Homeland Security, whoever, and now they can't because of the way that they're being looked at, because of all the chaos going around those agencies. And that's kind of disheartening because, look, we've had federal agents on here who were retired, but we still had them.
Yeah.
And they were a plethora of information. We want to continue to do that. But I think there needs to be, how Staples has that button
Hmm.
that I think that's what needs to happen. Somebody needs to hit the, the button and we just need to pause and go back.
Guess what? I'm going to tell you a story about that button, right? It's a true story, and only my colleagues that were working with me can attest to it. But I, I gotta, if I can access my old email account, I would bring that email up. But what I did is when they
Yes, the
came,
easy button. That's it. Yes, Amanda just mentioned it.
so when they came out with that, I said, "Hey, you should sell that button. I mean yeah, you should sell that buzzer, right? The button, and make some money off it because that would be so funny, especially in the office, right?" I
Yeah.
said, "You can just bang and tap that," and I was very adamant about it, and I end up sending an email to Staples, right? It said you need to put this on the shelf. So I started walking around. I ended up going to the store one time, and I see it on the shelf. I said, "Son of a gun! I want my royalties. I want something, you know. Give me a few $100 or something. I could buy something with that, you know.
Nothing. You got nothing.
Nothing, nothing, nothing.
Wow.
I couldn't.
Wow. See, that's
Yeah,
why you can't get, see, that's why you can't, sometimes you just can't give big corporations ideas, especially, million and billion dollar corporations, because they take your idea and then they don't even give you the credit for it.
yeah. That's it. You know.
We're going to start another protest with Staples
Yeah.
around the bun.
Yeah, that's a waste of time. I'd rather be here with you and everyone else on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. We're on Twitch today too. We're on
Oh,
Twitch.
yeah.
Yep. So the Instagram, I don't know what I did last time, but I was trying to get the streaming key and add it to it, and so we're not on Instagram this week. We'll try it again next week. Um, Amanda says everyone loves a good idea as long as it's free. Yeah, you got that right. The
Yes. And she's doing a lot in California, just to let you know.
Oh,
She's a mover and a shaker. She's doing a lot. I don't want to talk about what she's doing, but she's doing a lot of great things, and it will definitely be put out there when she puts it out. But again, this is the parents, right? There's so many of wonderful parents out there who are doing amazing things behind the scenes. I remember seeing something one day, and I can't remember who this congressman is, but I don't think he won. And he made a comment and he said, many times there's so many people behind the scenes that do such great work, and it doesn't come to the forefront because that's not what they want. They continue to do the work behind the scenes because they know that the work is going to make an impact.
hmm, hmm. Yeah, it's so true. Um, like you mentioned people that you meet all over the country and parents and doing that kind of work. Um, and I'm pretty sure after the conversation you guys have, you say, "Wow, you're doing a lot." And then somebody like you or them would say, "It's not enough," you know.
Right.
And but you keep plugging away, and that's
Well,
great.
you have to, right? You can't stop. I mean, there's a lot that goes into this, right? And I know someone said to me the other day, I was talking to someone and they said, well, Paula, it's fentanyl today, but what's it going to be tomorrow? Well, regardless, unfortunately, we're always going to have illicit drugs. They've been around since
Hmm.
Nixon. um, and I totally understand, this whole genre of people, the war on drugs. You can't even say that because
Yeah.
wars end. This hasn't ended. This has been going on since for 50 years now. You have the information that was just yesterday on 60 Minutes with the Sacklers, and they had an attorney on there, one of the prosecutors who was heavily involved and bringing the Sacklers to court and to put forth what they did and for the settlements. And they will not admit guilt.
Mm,
For them, they haven't done anything. They've
yeah.
done nothing wrong. Um, and they will not come out and say it. And it doesn't matter what's against them. And this prosecutor, mentioned yesterday on 60 Minutes, and I would advise everyone to definitely take a look at it, that they need to really you need to really pay attention to what's going on with this, because people look at it and they're like, oh well, Paula, well, it's 7.5 billion. Yeah, but it's 7.5 billion for the hundreds of thousands of family members like Ed Bish, we had him on, who lost a family member or a child to the beginning of the opioid crisis with a
Hmm.
Percocet, a Vicodin, an Oxy, because that's what they were pushing. And then what do we have almost, 10 years later? Now they're putting it in pills, because fentanyl didn't just start. Fentanyl's been around since what were we told by Eric, the agent? What did he say? 2010, I think he
Yeah.
said.
Yeah. It was.
So
Go ahead, Paul.
no, so it's something that, it's been around, but it's bringing its ugly head because there's so many precursors that are out there, and Scott talked about it. There's so many analogs, and out of 100, and I think Scott said 140 or 150 analogs, they've only used 3.
Hmm.
So when you're talking about that, it's oh yeah, and Amanda just said it, the most affected families haven't even received anything, and who
Wow.
knows if they will. And I know that this has gone to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court came back with an injunction last year to say that they had to go back to the drawing board and that the parents could sue the Sacklers. But now they came out, and because of the lawyers that they have, because they're billionaires, to say, no, the parents can't. You
Mm,
can't sue the Sacklers. You're going to have to deal what you're going to have to deal with. So you have all these people who lost these family members, all these people who are no longer here, that had to pay for a funeral, that have endured this life of grief, and they're going to get nothing. They're going to get nothing because of billionaires who continue to be protected and just get a slap in the hand.
yeah. It's crazy. The I try to bring up episode and put it in the comment section if I can on 60 Minutes. So
Yes.
anyone
And
wants to.
actually, one of the people who was on there yesterday, I think it was Ryan Hamilton. That's definitely a guest that I want on here, because he actually wrote a book about fentanyl two years ago,
Hmm.
um, and he talked about where this could go because of the Sacklers and Purdue and Big Pharma and what they were doing. And needless to say, here we are, and everything he stated in the book was true. And then when we had Erin on, right, that reporter, she talked about it too. also, and how she said that a lot of people that she talks to, this is what they're continuing to see. There is more and more cases that we are hearing, including here in New Bedford, the bust where fentanyl is a precursor. Fentanyl is involved, and xylazine. And again, when people think that this is not a crisis or that it's gone away, or sometimes you hear, and I think Erin mentioned this when we spoke to her, people are starting to say, well, it's just becoming too saturated. Well, you
Mm.
can't stop talking about it
Yeah.
because we're still losing lives every day.
It's it there's so many, like, why even say that, right? Why even say that? The fight means something. The fight means more to us than to some other people, right? And so if you know someone that's fighting something that's so dear to them, why even make a comment to
Yeah.
go in the negative way, you know? And it's like, don't even say anything at all. Don't. And it just drives me crazy that people would rather put salt on the wounds that you are feeling or someone else is feeling by saying something negative, instead of just being a little supportive and say, "Hey, can you tell me your story? Can I listen to your story?" But they don't, and it's so sad.
Right. And the thing is that every 5 to 7 minutes, someone is passing away from fentanyl poisoning. And so you think about it, we're on here an hour,
Yeah.
right? So that's almost 10 lives that have been
Hmm.
lost at the time we end this podcast,
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
unsuspected people that either were given, a pill because they went onto Snapchat, or given it by someone they knew, marijuana, a gummy bear, coke, meth. Again, it's in everything. And for people who continue to say that, you know, fentanyl is not in marijuana, well, when we have Jim on next week, who's a chemical scientist, he will explain everyone, basic chemistry 101. Because I
Hmm.
think people forget chemistry. They forget that you can have a solvent. Solvents can be turned into, fentanyl is a liquid. It's already a liquid. So when you have illicit fentanyl that's a powder, and you're creating that illicit fentanyl into a liquid to spray it on certain things, or to contaminate something, like the cases that we've had in Maine with the big busts. So people are going to sit here and say that those are not true, that that's not happening. And what's happening, Charlie, is that you have so many naysayers out there who they'll turn around and say, well, when fentanyl gets to a certain temperature, it disseminates. No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
No, it does not. And how many people have we had on here that have rebuked that time and time again? But again, you still have people out there who will, that's what they have in their head. I had someone say to me that, Andrew took a pill, and I just don't want to say that.
Hmm.
And I'm like, how are you going to sit here? I mean, think about it. How are you going to tell a parent that lost their child in a manner that they did,
Yep.
that they did not lose that child that way?
Yeah.
Like, how pathetic do you have to be?
Yeah. It's just take the story as exactly what it is, factual. You told your story. There's no reason for anyone to disbelieve you. But why even bring that up? And when someone brings that up, that tells me a lot about them. That their clear cut intentions are to hurt
Yeah.
Paula, right? And and
Well, yeah,
Phil
and
and everybody else. It just doesn't make any sense. And I mean, you say throat punching people. Well, that person like needs a rude awakening, and the only rude awakening they can get is that they go through an experience. that we don't want them to go through, but that's the only way because there's a whole lot of sincerity in you when you're telling your story. Phil's telling the story. For anyone to disbelieve it, it's just crazy. Just totally boggles my mind, man.
Well, you know what it is? It's kind of like what Amanda's talking about now, right? And it's the same concept. It's what's happening is big tobacco,
Yep.
big pharma, the alcohol industry, all rolled into one because big tobacco put out these ads back in the day that were sexy. Hey, smoke because it's sexy.
Yeah.
Let's go. And then all these commercials that you had, and smoking's not bad for you. And then alcohol, the same thing. And then the same thing with big pharma. And now here we are where they have had to come out and say, no, tobacco is bad for you. No, alcohol is bad for you in a large consumption or just any consumption. No, big pharma and Sacklers. No, you guys were wrong. I mean, and how many hundreds of thousands of people have passed away because of this? And it's the same thing with vaping, right? The kids are all vaping today because it's sexy. The cartridges they look, I mean, they come in different colors, they light up, you have different things in the vaping, and you have kids as early as 8 years old who are vaping,
Hmm.
and then you have the packaging of the gummies that look like Dorito bags and they look like candy. So when you are doing that, you're targeting the youth. Already the marketing department is targeting a certain generation, and it's the youth. And what do the youth do? They're attracted to colors. They're attracted
Hmm.
to, oh, the shiny object. They're attracted to, oh my gosh, look at that. And then you're not getting the correct information because there is nothing out there today that says vaping is bad for you. You hear people talking about it, but the kids are still doing it, but there's no warning label that like there is on cigarettes. And that's the biggest thing. And that's the same thing with marijuana, with having the fentanyl in it. There's no warning. Yeah, we're telling people go to the dispensary. We're telling people please don't get it on the street because you're playing Russian roulette. But then you have the naysayers who are sitting behind the same people and saying, don't listen to them.
Yeah.
That's not true. And now you're killing people.
It the who was it? Let me um gentleman with the he came out with the book. What was his name again?
Oh, Eric.
Eric.
Yeah.
So one of Eric's friends approached me and had talked to me. Hey, I got a fabulous book I want you to read. And so now I'm like, okay. And so Brian, if you're out there listening, I want to thank you. So he's talking so highly about the book, right? Our guest, right? And I still don't know the name that he's going to come up with, right? And he's just this a great book. You got to read it. It's so many great stories, and this guy's great. You got to put him on your podcast. And so he sends me the picture of the book, and I said he was already on the podcast. He said, "What?"
Yeah.
I said, "Yeah." So, but he was going on to say that he read the book and you know what? Nobody can discount you guys. No discredit anything that you're doing because they're not showing any empathy for you and what you're going through. And I just people like that, Paula, they deserve a little bit more than a throat punch. And I just want to let you know that you're doing amazing things, and I know it, you know it, your family knows it, and then as you're doing great things, to be a strong advocate, you're also throwing praises out to many, many, many people that are out there that you're dealing with on a daily basis.
Oh yeah.
So, and you speak about Amanda, right? And she
And
says,
she's
"I
been on
know."
our show.
Yeah, yes, yes, I remember. Um, Great conversation. We like I said, we can always, I think it's 10 people that we can put on here. So, Paula, it never has to be just one guest. It can be a multitude of people that want to talk about different things. We can put them on here.
Absolutely.
The screen will look like a Zoom meeting, but it will still be a podcast, and
But
people will get heard.
that's okay because I mean, who would have thought that back in the day with the Brady Bunch, right? That we
Yeah,
would have gone years forward and it would have been now a Zoom call.
yeah, exactly. How they look up to each other, looking down. It's yeah, it's that's a
Oh, thank you, Mike. Mike Daniel is awesome. He's doing a lot of great stuff too. He is a advisor with Achieve Greatness. I'd love to get him as more than just an advisor. He is doing a lot for the great community of Martha's Vineyard, and just around awareness. Also with the kids, he is great with them. He works at the Boys and Girls Club. And Mike talked about this even before it was being talked about because let's talk about Martha's Vineyard, right? Ritzy, there's no
yeah,
problem there. We don't have an issue. And Mike was the person that said no, we do, and we're
yeah,
going to talk about it. And for that, I'm sure that a lot of people thank him for being that voice. um, he's a great person. He's done a lot with Achieve Greatness, and we hope that he continues to do more. I know he's so busy, but again, it's giving credit where credit is due, right? It's recognizing the people um, that do things. And yeah, he says we have big issues here. Yeah, because a
yeah,
lot of the product that's coming in, and Eric talked about this, it's the point of entry.
yeah,
That's our point of entry, right? And that in Boston and the I-95 corridor. So again, it's something where we have to keep the awareness going. We have to keep talking about this. Amanda and I, we say this all the time. This isn't about you being better than me, or you're putting this out. This is about all of us together doing it
hmm,
collectively and working together to get the messaging out to save, like Mike Fiore, when we had him on, saving a generation, because that's what's being lost.
exactly. Um, we're all trying to be humanitarians, and that's what it's about. Is doing what's best for humankind, and I'm just we have to do it together.
Yeah,
Collaboration is key, as she said, Amanda.
yeah, because you can't have, if you have some organizations who feel that, well, I'm better than them and I'm going to put this out before them. That's not what this is about.
True.
Because the deaths that are occurring with fentanyl poisoning, this isn't a competition.
No.
That's what I tell people all the time. This is an awareness, a prevention, advocacy to get the word out, to continue to let people know what's happening. One of the things is you hear about the youth and how much they're doing and so many things they're getting into. Well, it's also about making sure that we're listening to them. And I think in a lot of instances, um, people are not listening to them
Yeah.
because they don't have that seat. And if they do, they're not being given they're not being given the wherewithal to really make a difference, right? And that's where we are taking that on, and we're doing it with our youth groups that we have. And one of the things is, you see it all the time, Charlie, um especially with you being a former police officer, right? And being in the career that you had, when you guys had big busts here in the city, you had federal agencies coming in and you guys worked together. You didn't sit there and say, well, this is my town, we're not going to do this. No,
Hmm.
you all work together for the same common good.
Exactly. Let me see. Let me just check. I always see something on here that I'm trying to get rid of. Hmm. The um Michael Daniels. Daniel. I seen a great picture of you and Larry Center Spider, and I want to say happy birthday to Spider. He's out there, very good basketball player. Now he's a coach and he's a business owner and he's doing well in Onset, Massachusetts. So, um, trying to remove something here. All right.
Yeah, Mike said because sometimes people come at the youth in a harsh way, and they do, Mike. Some people do, and that's why we do things differently. And so many other parents who are doing this, we come at the youth at their level because that's how it has to be. But at the same time, we have to get the messaging out because one of the things, and Charlie, I can't remember who it was, if it was Scott who said it, that you can't sugarcoat some things because they have to understand the truth and the severity of what's happening.
Hmm. Yeah. Just be blunt, be straightforward, no matter what you're talking about. And I think it goes a long way. Um, let's see.
So next week we have a fabulous guest. He's not going to be on a plane. And then the week after, we have another fabulous guest. Charlie will absolutely start putting the guests that we're going to be having because we want all of you to be prepared in case you all have questions or you want to
Yeah.
be participant in the guests that we have. A lot of them are amazing at what they do. Um, and we want to make sure again that the people we have on the podcast are bringing forth the information. It's factual, and it's people that are bringing the experience that even I don't have.
Exactly.
Yes, Mike, we're going to have you on because I keep asking you and you keep blowing me off. I know.
Yeah. You know what, Mike? You don't have to. You don't have far to go. You could sit on your little lazy boy at home and chill out, have the remote at your side, and guess what? We send you a link, and voila, you're on the show. You are part of the show. It doesn't take a lot. Guess what? Get out of the boys' club on the island. Get out of there for a few moments. Go in the back office and give us an hour or
Well,
30 minutes.
he's going to have to come across the water because he's got his cookies at his cousin's house.
Oh, well, if you don't go get the cookies, then that's more for me. It's more for me. I'll take them. The Yeah, Michael, come on, man. You can come on and chop shop. Talk shop, and let's do this. We got
So
some
I
sticks here.
see. So I see that the Jets did what I asked them to do. See, someone's listening, Charlie.
Yeah, they got a little. They got a. Let me see. What's he? He's not half Cape Verde. Yeah, maybe half Cape Verde. And Justin Fields is going your direction, and you should.
No, I'm talking about how they got rid of Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, I'm talking about your
Remember, I
newest
didn't like him.
Aaron. I forgot about him because I knew he
One,
was gone. He totally. How can you? The Jets were a contender, before he got there. The
yes.
defense was good. They had an opportunity to sneak into the playoffs as a possible wild card, and that dude just he he put the funk in the New York Jets and made it even worse. It's crazy. But
Oh, Justin Fields' mom is from Cape Verde.
yeah, that's what it is.
Okay, Mike, I know you like the Giants. I get it. But the reason I follow the Jets is, as you know, that was Andrew's team. So, we gotta hope that they get somewhere this year with a new coach. I'm really liking the new coach though. I'm
Yeah,
really liking everything about him.
He was a good player, and come from a good organization in Detroit. Detroit is shown that they know what they're doing, and he's coming from that same circle. So I think that he's going to be good. He's going to be good.
And do you think your Patriots are actually going to do their job?
Well, they're doing it. They're going to be able to defend, but as far as the offense, nothing's panned out right now. So we'll see what happens. But I got confidence in the coach,
Well, Mike Varell, right?
Vrabel, yeah,
Vrabel, sorry.
Vrabel. Yep, he's been a winner all his life, and so there's no reason why he can't continue to do that. And now that he's calling the shots, he's the one to, he's going to be the one to that's going to be the blame for failures and successes. So I can't wait.
Brings the rivalry back.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, Paul. Yep, exactly. Um, so the I think that football is a huge part of my life. So I'm always anything football I like to see and hear, and I'm glad that these pieces are being tossed around all over the place. Some teams are getting better, and I like that.
Yeah. I was actually at Patriot Stadium in November for an event, Charlie. And there was a point during the event where there were like security guards or whoever they were, where they would not let you stand near the window because the section that we were in, you could actually see right onto the field.
Hmm.
And they were like, you got to step away from the window. And I remember someone saying to the person that was with me, it was actually one of the event coordinators, they're like, you think she even knows what the hell's going on? She don't know what's going on that field right now, so it don't matter.
Yeah, that's all right. You're getting it. You're getting it slowly but surely.
Oh,
We all got to start somewhere.
and Charlie, Achieve Greatness is going to be involved in the Martha's Vineyard's Boat to the Basket Youth Showcase, bringing forth awareness to Martha's Vineyard. We did that 2 years ago with Mike.
Hmm.
It was such a successful event. Unfortunately, we did not do it last year because I had COVID, but we absolutely will be there this year. And Mike, he has put on such a I keep sending the wrong thing. He's put on such a great event, and he just, again, it goes back to what he's been doing in the vineyards, and it goes back to people not thinking that there's a problem there, and there is.
Yeah,
And Boat to Basket is what he started, and it's kind of like it goes back to what people are doing with youth and sports, right? Kind of like what we're doing. Andrew was a basketball coach. He coached AAU, as everyone knows. I know nothing about sports, but I'm learning
hmm,
because of people like my husband, obviously, Mike, and people know I'm not an expert, and I might not get everything correct. But one thing is when you have people who are on the same path as you and on the same mission, it's going to be successful.
yeah, yeah. It will. And but I would I'd like to go there. Tag along with the wife, bring her on board, and go see the good folks.
Absolutely. So yeah, so Amanda just said whenever she uses sports puns, she tells me to tell Phil because at least he'll laugh. Because she knows sports, unlike me. Don't worry, Amanda. Charlie does the same thing.
Yeah. But I like it, and sports are good for the community, and whether it's whether it's down at
I
Burgo League, whether it's across the pond in Martha's Vineyard, or
right.
in the professional level.
I like what Paulo said. Paul said, we need all one AAU teams like down south, multiple sports, both boys and girls. Paul, I agree with you. The unfortunate thing that I have noticed here in our city, and I know, Charlie, you're going to get phone calls for this,
Hmm.
that we are so saturated here that it doesn't seem like people want to work together.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
That
And I'm not trying, and again, I'm not trying to be mean. I am not. I am just, look, we will, I would want a big event because I see other cities and towns doing them.
Yeah,
I mean, Springfield does it, right? You're going to tell me that in Springfield, which has a lot more AAU teams than here in New Bedford, they can all do an event once a year and get together. They can't do it here. Come
yeah,
on.
yeah, it's true. And Michael, I see your invite, and I thank you, appreciate you, and I will definitely be there. We have one thing. I don't miss AAU, right? I used to coach it, and I kind of frown on it most of the time. But when it comes to basketball, any basketball, I love sitting there and watching, taking my pictures, and then sharing them all over the place, because we I like to capture a moment and then kind of pass it on to the family, and
Yeah.
there's your son, nephew, niece, whatever, scoring a point, making a good defensive play, and I like to capture all that on my camera.
Right.
So,
And we all know that, Phil coached basketball, right? And he holds the championship at St. Francis when he was
hmm
coaching there. And then he went on to coach at CYO, and then the Boys and Girls, or I'm sorry, the YMCA. So Andrew saw all that. And then Andrew started coaching and he played and he was a coach in the AAU. So a lot of the things that he did, he mimicked Phil, which is kind of a testament of why we continue to do what we do. Um, and I think that's one of the biggest things, Charlie. And you know this, and Mike knows this, and Amanda. I might not know a lot about basketball, and people can say that to me, but what I do know is I know compassion,
hmm
I know support. And this is why I've said time and time again, any of the teams here that want to do something with Achieve Greatness, that really want to sit there and bring something forth once a year, let's do it because it's for the kids,
yeah,
right? It can't always be these continued silos, and everyone thinks they're better than everybody else. You might be, but again, if you're doing it for the kids, that all goes out the window.
yeah, yep, sure does. Paul said he was in was it
New Jersey, they
New
have big
Jersey?
bounce courts. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, they definitely, and that's great to see what True Bounce does in different communities, and they just go and it, as long as you got a flat surface, they can bring those courts out, and voila. I mean, they did it downtown New Bedford.
Yeah.
They did it for several years. They were down there and closed the streets off and have 3-on-3 competition. So it's definitely could happen. Michael Daniel says I will reach out to Eric Brittle, a True Bounce, to do events with him. Yeah, good. See, connecting community connections here. I love it. Um, all right, Paula. Well, my beloved Celtics are on, and I'm gonna go watch them tear up some Utah Jazz. There's no jazz music in Utah. What's going on here? What? They just, when they took their team from New Orleans, they should have changed it to Utah, whatever it is. But
Well, maybe
um,
there is jazz in Utah, but you just don't know.
yeah, yeah, I like to hear it. Hearing's believing. I want to hear some jazz music in Utah.
I'll tell you, the best jazz that I ever heard was in St. Louis. When I was there, I was working with a company where I was going to St. Louis probably once every other week for the organization, the company I worked for. They had their corporate headquarters there. And let me tell you, the best.
You know what? I'll tell you a quick story, right? Two old ladies, probably about 90 years old, 89, 80, probably 84 years old, right? They're traveling downtown New Bedford and they're looking for a spot. They want to listen to some jazz music. And they came all the way from Cape Cod to listen to some jazz music. And they heard about this spot. And so they stopped me in the middle of the street and I says, "Well, where do you want it? Where is this location?" They said, "The bomb shelter." And I said, you know what? I know exactly where that is. I said, you want to go right down that street, probably about 4 or 5 blocks. And I said, in fact, I'm going to take you there. And I bring them all the way there, made sure they got into the place. And so I get out at around 11:30 at night, and I'm driving home because I lived in that area back then. And who's getting out? It's the two old ladies. They stood there all night.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
I
and they
love
were,
that.
yep. And so that was pretty cool.
And it's kind
So
of like Amanda said, jazz is a vibe, not a place. And
yeah,
then Paul said Montreal Jazz Fest. Yes, absolutely. And New Orleans and Chicago also has great jazz. But I think, from what I understand, and we're not gonna go any further. Wasn't there jazz here in New Bedford
yeah. There's. I mean, there was. I mean,
back in the day or
Count
something?
Basie. Count Basie. There was numerous places and spots, especially with the Cape Verdean and Portuguese musicians all over the place that were here, and so they grabbed him. Jolie Gonzalez, they grabbed him. He's went all over the place. He's played with Barry Belafonte. He's done so many different things, and so jazz was you know pretty well known in this city. So um, but yeah, it's just got to bring it back, and I like jazz, I like blues. That's the type of music I like. Those venues, and there's quite a few different places, bands in the area, but they go elsewhere. They go into
Yeah.
Rhode Island, they go into Boston, they travel into Connecticut, and that's what they do. But I like to get some of them to stay down there. And Paul mentioned Mr. Haddix, which is another one. So, but yeah,
Yeah. And then isn't this Itarian going to have a speakeasy? I heard that
yeah,
they are.
downstairs. Yep, I did the tour. As part of the press, and went there, and they spending $33 million on it. They're renovating it. The big um chandelier, if you want to call it, in the main auditorium, has 25,000 lights in it, and
Oh,
they're
wow.
restoring it. It went away to, I think, the state of Connecticut, and they're restoring it. So I have all the material, and it's gonna look great. And so
Thank you, Mike.
the opening date is 2026, early 2026, January,
Awesome.
February, and you will see the first grand opening. And they'll have different spot openings. But it looks fabulous. The Zyterian Pack has just done a fabulous job, and there's an architect that's involved in it from I believe the Boston area. Amazing, amazing people, and so, but
Awesome. Well, maybe we can get to know, maybe we can have some good jazz here, because
yeah,
I'm more of the Rat Pack, you know,
hmm, yep,
Dean Martin,
hmm,
Sammy Davis, Frank Sinatra. That's what I wish we had, those clubs with the big red velvet couches and
hmm,
the little light on the table. I mean,
yeah,
obviously I wasn't there back then, but just what you see, that's what I think, really has an ambiance that just brings, it doesn't matter what your background is, it just brings everyone together.
yeah. And the speakeasy is going to be rentable. So, like, if Paula wanted to do something, her 30th birthday party downstairs,
Sure, yeah.
and
Uh-huh.
so you can rent that
Yeah,
speakeasy out. And actually, the craziest thing is that while you're in the speakeasy, having your party with your friends, there's going to be screens on the wall. So whatever's going on on stage, you will be able to see it. Like, it's going
nice.
to stream it right to your room. So you, even though you're renting a room, you're seeing the performance for free. It's unbelievable. And
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, City Winery. That's another great spot. I love it in Boston. Um, and that if I'm right, Paul, that's kind of like a franchise, right? City Winery, because I believe they have one in New York somewhere. So, but great thing. Who
And
knows?
and and yeah,
Maybe I've
there's
achieved greatness jazz festival.
well,
We can do
sure.
that.
Why don't we start asking for sponsors?
We
Let's
can do
go.
that.
Let's start asking for sponsors and we can get it done. Or even a boxing tournament, because you see, Amanda's doing it in California. Celebrity themed boxing event, which is awesome with several jazz bands. Yeah, I mean, hey,
Well, well, Stevie
there's a
D's
lot of,
coming in May.
oh God, don't tell me that twice because yeah, that's my guy. That's
Stevie's
don't
coming
even
in
don't even tell Phil. He'll tell he'll
May.
he'll shut you down. He'll tell you, he'll
Uh,
call you right after this. What did you tell Paul? That's what I used to listen to.
yeah. Well, we
Not in
I
Portuguese music, of course, because unlike my husband grew up with R&B, obviously, as all of you know, the good R&B. Back in
mhm,
the day, the '80s, the '90s R&B. Um, the Brothers Johnson, right from here in New Bedford, so many the Tavares brothers. I did not grow up with that. I
mhm,
grew up with Portuguese music. So I did not start listening to that until I was literally in my 30s,
mhm.
till I got with my husband. Because for me, like I can tell you any Portuguese artist.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or the rock bands from the '80s because that's what I was listening to because my hair was like that.
Mhm.
But the good R&B that Phil knows, Mike knows, Paul, Amanda, all of you, I did not know that until until late in my 20s. Yes, Mike, you're only 25. I apologize. You are so right. So you don't even know what I'm talking about.
No, I'm pretty sure he doesn't know anything that you're talking about.
No, no. He's Kendrick Lamar. That's what he
Yeah, Kendrick. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, Fado, Paul. Yes,
Fadu.
and
Yeah,
Fado is huge, and that's something that's it's so beautiful and lovely, and you don't see any place doing it around here.
no. Well, music and food is the easiest way to a person's heart, and
Yes.
so I think those are the type of things they had a very successful Kachupa Festival at the Vets Hall, by Isaiah Holtman and Adam Clark. They did a great job along with the people from the Vets. Very, very happy that so. But all
All
right,
right.
my dear, we will see
You have
each
a good
other.
night. Go watch your Celtics. We will see everyone next Monday. We have a great guest on. He's already texted me like 5 times, and he's like, "I hate Allegiant Air. I'm never flying them again."
Yeah.
But that's okay. He's on next Monday. So, everyone, thank you for being on. It's great to have all of you, our listeners. Please follow us. Please come on next week. We have an amazing dad who I call a family. I love him. He unfortunately lost his son, Tommy, 9 years ago, and he has been on the fight around awareness and fentanyl for almost 10 years and classifying fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction because it's exactly what it is. So we
Yeah.
hope you all tune in next Monday, 7:30 p.m. Everyone have a good night, a good
Yeah.
week. Stay safe. And it's interesting, Charlie, because you mentioned throat punch. I was actually called out on that by someone who was going back and forth with me, who said, because they attended my event in Springfield, and they said, "Oh, if I don't agree with you, what are you going to do? Throat punch me?"
Mm,
You know?
yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not the one who started that. It
Yeah.
was actually somebody else who's pretty well respected from the White House.
Hmm.
And I think that this conversation just needs to end because obviously your mindset is someplace else. And that's what I'm learning with all of this is how to just cut people off.
Yeah. It's easy. I've been doing it every day. You know, I put this little comment on my just fishing. I'm fishing for those people that I don't need to be around. Adios. See you later. I do not need you in my life, you know. And it's so important, you know. Get rid of
Well,
the name.
life is too short. I was
Yeah,
talking to someone the other day, and he told me his whole story. He had lost his daughter. She was 15 to fentanyl poisoning, and he was a gangbanger and everything. We're definitely going to have him on the show. And he said, "Thank you for not judging me." And I said to him, I said, "My name's not Jesus, it's
yeah.
Paula."
Hmm.
And just because you have a story, we all have a story. And
Yeah,
now what you're doing is good things from what you used to do. And you realized and you came to understand that you needed to choose a different path.
exactly. So, all right.
All right.
Don't, don't forget, we got a new number. You can call us in every Monday. You can call in if you want to kind of hear your voice on the air. Call us in at that bottom line number right there, 774-326-0063. Paula, have a great night.
Thank you.
Everybody
You
on
too.
Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, and Instagram for a brief moment. I appreciate you, and we'll see you next Monday.
Yes,
Take
we
care.
will. Good night.
All right. Good night.
It's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yo, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Bumping through your broadcast. Grab a chair, fill your glass. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yo, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Bumping through your broadcast. Grab a chair, fill your glass.